Dexter Original Sin has officially been cancelled, and despite not needing a second season since it served its purpose, to me, it is now a victim of wasted potential. Whatever your view is on Original Sin, you can't deny it had highs. Patrick Gibson gave an amazing performance and proved the whole fandom he could be young Dexter. Not to mention, Brian Moser quickly became the highlight of the show once we saw his past and how he watched Dexter in the earlier years. I think even the premise of the show is smooth. On announcement, we all thought the show would be a greedy cash grab with no soul, but to find out it ties into old Dexter's story was exciting. We have Original Sin to thank for Resurrection, since it was the reason Michael came back to play Dexter, and lots of money of course. But without a doubt, the love for the project can be felt, and it proved the revival of Dexter wasn't pointless. At the time, it broke records for Showtime, not only becoming its most watched series premiere in history, but also having the highest social engagement. This means since Resurrection beat the record set by its prequel, Original Sin is the second most watched Showtime show in 10 years. Understanding how big the show really was is important, because this is the reason why a majority of the fandom are gutted the story won't continue. However, before we even discuss the potential season 2 had, what about the missed opportunities in season 1? The biggest sin of the show, no pun intended, was the lack of risks the writers were willing to take. The focus was on fan service and Easter eggs spelled out to us, but it should have been shared with one character who wasn't mentioned or seen, Dr. Vogel. Despite a lot of the hate she gets, Vogel was the founder of the code and the only other person who knew the truth about Dexter. In season 8, for those who actually watched it like myself, she becomes Dexter's mother figure, an instrument used to humanize Harry and a way to introduce a top 3 Dexter villain. What's funny is 6 months ago, while the show was still airing, I predicted the writers would play it safe and act like it never happened. But why not stick to the canon and own the risk you once took? I also originally said Harry had a good backstory, but I completely ignored the fact it's a copy and paste of Vogel's. Both of their sons drown. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is when Harry is shown to be stressed over multiple murders Dexter commits, has no therapy sessions, and isn't shown to connect with Vogel over their sons' deaths. What was played safe turned into a painful missed opportunity. And instead of seeing a lot of Harry and Laura's past that was spelled out to us in the original show, we should have seen Vogel. Above everything I've said, Vogel wasn't introduced because they were never planning to kill Harry. Well, not until season 2 at least. You see, Harry's death is important because the last person he speaks to about his creation / their creation is Vogel. His guilt weighs heavy after seeing their Frankenstein monster in action, acting on a code that to him was a theory at best. It was the only way to ensure his son's survival. Harry not dying cripples the show since it doesn't stick to the continuity, and instead we get a happy-ass family ending. Dexter has killed 4 people and this man is still alive? Not too long ago, Harry was stressing that his partner almost died. He meets Brian again. His son kills his longtime friend Aaron Spencer, who targeted the missing children they were looking for, and Dexter will continue to kill. If they wanted to convince us even more about Harry logging off, this would have been quite literally perfect. It would be a retcon since Harry dies after seeing the pimp Dexter kills, but there is no way a man could take this much damage and just dance. Regardless of the praise Patrick Gibson received for his portrayal of young Dexter, he still wasn't the version some fans hoped for. Even on announcement of the prequel, it seemed pointless as we've seen what Dexter was like before season 1 of the original series. For those of you that aren't aware, Dexter Early Cuts is a short animated series about Dexter's early years, and every episode can be found on YouTube. I'll link the playlist in the description. Anyway, this version of Dexter is terrifying, and it shows just how cold and calculated he can be. When acting normal, he's still inexperienced but progressively gets smoother over the years. And look, I won't play spot the difference, but the Dexter we see in Early Cuts and the one we see in Original Sin are 2 different people. Original Sin Dexter is goofy. Yeah, he's awkward, but he has a lot of happy-going energy. There are moments where we see how detached he truly is, but he isn't creepy. I think that creepiness to Dexter, young Dexter, is important because it's not focused on outside of what we see in Early Cuts and season 1. I personally like both iterations of Dexter and understand since Early Cuts flew under many people's radar, Original Sin is like the new canon. But many others want a dark Dexter with no connection to anything or weaknesses. Hell, before Resurrection came out, a lot of you wanted to see a Dexter with no code. Original Sin Dexter doesn't come across as too heroic or emotional, he just isn't terrifyingly empty. However, a massive benefit of this portrayal is how it shows glimpses of Dexter's sense of justice, a theme going on in Resurrection as we speak. He isn't killing for a greater good, and without the code he'd be killing anyone, but with this rulebook installed in him early, he knows what's right and what's wrong. Aaron Spencer isn't a perfect villain, in fact, he's one of the weaker ones, but in him, we see the good Dexter can do. The morality of Dexter is always debated, explored. Is he good or bad? But not one discussion embraces the fact that he can be both. Innocents have directly and indirectly died because of him, just as much as they have been able to live indirectly and directly because of him. Hell, even more. The writers can't make up their minds, just like the fandom, but to me Dexter is balanced, a constant walking contradiction. He's a man killing those deserving for himself, but in turn saving future victims. He likes to kill, but over time we see he also cares about saving lives. That doesn't make him Superman, it makes him balanced. Original Sin could have explored this more in season 2, or instead done a full 180, as long as Dexter doesn't acknowledge the good he's done and views himself as a neat monster. If you want me to be brutally honest, I am not saddened at the fact that Original Sin Season 2 will never happen. In my opinion, it is a tale that should be told in one season. I said earlier the show wasn't a soulless cash grab, but it is still a cash grab. Nostalgia bait for fans of the series older than me and you that ate this shit up. Although it was overall a good show, it missed opportunities and focused on the wrong things at times. Yeah, it would have been fun to see young Matthews, but it is a sin we didn't see Dr. Vogel. It's a sin Harry didn't die at the end of the season. Apart from Dexter, Deb and Brian being portrayed by great actors, the supporting cast is decent at best, with overused character traits.
I'm just shitting you.
It would have been a treat to have two shows coexisting at once, but we can't get caught up on what could have been, because despite what season 2 could have brought, Original Sin is still a victim of wasted potential. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed today's video, follow the first rule of the code and subscribe. It may be small to you, but it means the world to me. Have an amazing day.